My sister was pampered like a princess while I was ignored. At Grandma's 80th, I casually mentioned I bought a Manhattan penthouse. She threw her wine, my mom cried, and my uncle said, "I guess we backed the wrong kid." I was 7 when I realized I was a background child. My sister, Elena, was the miracle. She had the curls, the dimples, and the ability to make my parents drop everything with a single pout. I had good grades and a quiet room. By 16, the divide was a canyon. Elena got the brand new SUV for her birthday. I got my dad's hand-me-down sedan with a leaking radiator. When she failed math, they hired a 100-an-hour tutor. When I won the state physics fair, my mom asked if I could pick up Elena from cheer practice on my way home. "You're just more self-sufficient." "Leo," my dad would say, not looking up from his phone. It wasn't a compliment. It was an excuse to ignore me. I stopped expecting them to show up. I stopped asking for help. I stayed in the shadows, worked 3 jobs through college, and eventually I just stopped calling. For 5 years I was a ghost. They didn't mind. Elena was busy failing out of her 3rd influencer business venture, and they were busy mortgaging the house to fund her aesthetic lifestyle. Then came Grandma's 80th birthday, a black tie dinner at a high-end estate. They didn't invite me until the last minute, probably to make the table look symmetrical. I arrived late. I didn't wear a flashy suit, just a charcoal-tailored piece that cost more than my dad's car. Though they wouldn't know that. The dinner was a tribute to Elena. My mother spent 20 minutes hosted Elena's resilience in the face of her recent boutique closing. My Uncle Mark kept nodding, saying, "She's the star of this family. A true investment." I sat at the end of the table sipping a sparkling water. I hadn't said 10 words. "So, Leo," my mom said, her voice dripping with that familiar patronizing pity. "Are you still doing that computer thing? I hope you're saving up. Elena needs a little help with her new apartment deposit. And we thought since you have no expenses, the table went quiet." Elena looked at me smirking, already spending my money in her head. "I can't help with that, Mom," I said quietly. "Don't be selfish," my dad snapped. "You've always been the cold one. Your sister is family." "I know," I said leaning back, "but my liquidity is tied up. I just closed on a property this morning. The closing costs were significant." "A property?" My uncle laughed. "What, a studio in the suburbs? A fixer-upper?" I took a slow sip of water. The room felt heavy. I didn't raise my voice. I kept it flat. "Cold. A penthouse," I said. "In Manhattan on 57th Street." The clinking of silverware stopped. "Manhattan?" Elena scoffed, her face reddening. "Leo, quit lying. You work in tech support or whatever. You can't afford a closet in Manhattan." "I don't work in tech support," I replied, looking her dead in the eye. "I'm the CTO of the firm that just acquired your former landlord's holding company. And the penthouse has a 360-degree view of the park. It's $14 million cash." The silence wasn't just quiet, it was vacuum sealed. My mother's glass of Merlot shook in her hand. 14 million. I've been self-sufficient, remember? I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Since you guys were busy funding Elena's vision, I had to find my own. It turns out I'm quite good at it." Elena's face went from pale to purple. She looked at the center of the table, the giant, expensive cake my parents had bought for her even though it was Grandma's birthday. She looked at me, the boy she'd stepped on for 2 decades. "She lost it." "You're a liar," she screamed, throwing her wine glass. It shattered against the mahogany table, red wine splashing across my mother's silk dress. "You're just trying to ruin my night. You've always been jealous of me." My mother started sobbing, clutching her stained dress, looking at me like I was a monster for simply existing with success. But it was my Uncle Mark who broke attention. He looked at my parents, then at Elena's tantrum, then back at me. He saw the watch on my wrist. He saw the way I didn't flinch when the glass broke. He saw the power shift in real time. "My God," Mark whispered, his voice thick with a sudden, sickening realization. "I guess we backed the wrong kid." My dad looked like he'd been punched in the gut. He reached out, his hand trembling. "Leo, son, we didn't know. We should celebrate this. Why didn't you tell us?" "Because you didn't ask," I said, standing up. I adjusted my cuffs. "You haven't asked a question about my life since 2012. You were too busy watching The Princess." I walked over to my grandma, who was the only one smiling. She knew. She'd always seen it. I kissed her cheek and slid a small envelope into her hand. A first-class ticket to any destination in the world, and the deed to a small cottage by the sea. "Happy birthday, Grandma," I whispered. I turned to the rest of the table. My mother was still crying. My father was trying to find words to bridge a 10-year gap, and Elena was vibrating with rage. "Enjoy the wine," I said. "I'll send someone to pick up my things from your garage." "Actually, never mind. Throw them out. I have enough room for new ones." I walked out of the estate and into the cool night air. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the background. I wasn't the self-sufficient ghost. I was the one who left them behind in the dark.